Hey, this is Lorena, and I wanted to do a video for you on how to go ahead and plan to make a quilt top. I'm going to share with you how I do it, and so I wanted to share how I made this quilt and the amount of time that it took me to make it. I usually make my quilt tops pretty quickly because I plan ahead and I organize everything for the process of this. So I really do thank you for watching, and so I guess you'll be watching me in the planning. So I'll see you in a minute, okay? See you in a minute. When I work on a quilt, I do all my cutting first. I do not like cutting. It's not my favorite part, but I cut all my fabrics to the measurements that the quilt instructions required, and I try to cut all the fabric. I get it all done in one shot. So I believe I spent maybe 3 hours cutting all the fabric. I also cut more than I need. And one of the reasons why I cut more fabric than I need is because I want to make sure that if maybe some of my cuts aren't right, I don't want to get back up, find the fabric, fold it, iron it again, and recut. So that when you're ready to piece your quilt, all you're going to do is piece it because you have more than enough cut for yourself. And I cut my material not on a day that I'm going to start piecing, because usually when I cut my material, I just, like I said, it's not my favorite part, and so I do it on a day that I'm not going to be sewing. So here you see I marked the ruler. It has the tape on it. It's underneath the 3.5, so all this space for here is 3.5. I get a fabric and I make sure that it's on the edge here, and all the way around, that it's 3.5. This one you can see it's a little bit short, 1/8, and I'll still use this fabric, but I kind of move over 1/8 a little bit and make sure that I sew on my 1/4. But this gives me a guideline that, okay, this fabric is a little bit short. I can still use it, but it's a little bit short, so it's not going to exactly butt up to the fabric. I know that when I sew this, that I go in 1/8, it'll be on 1/4 on here, but 1/8 here, to make sure that my cutting, and though my cutting is not precise, I know that when I sew it, my sewing will be precise. Here you can see that I sewed exactly 1/4 here, 1/8 here. I'll still use my fabric, and no one will see this mistake or the fact that it wasn't cut properly. And so this is why I have the ruler next to me and I'm working. I cut all my material. I already got it done. I already said that, right? And then you turn around and you organize your fabric. I have the quilt top or quilt block, what the quilt block will look like as I'm piecing it together. What I tend to do is get myself a little piece of paper, just a scrappy sheet of paper, and I decide how many pieces I need of each color. Make myself kind of like a little written schematic of what I'm going to need to make one significant block. So on my squares I needed 6 lights and 4 of different variation of colors. I used a medium dark and a light dark. So this is what you need to make 6 half square triangles. When you put a dark and a light to make your half square triangles, I know it's 1 piece of fabric each, but when you cut the material, you'll end up with having 2. What I needed to make 1 block. So then I make myself another sheet of paper, which, what does it take, or how many pieces of each color do I need to make a row? So I'm going to have to make 4 blocks to make a row, so I multiply all of these by 4. Now I have everything multiplied by 4. Now what I do is I gather all my material, because I know all this material, all my squares together make enough for 4 blocks, and I use an Office Max clip just like that, and I clip this material together just like this. I also grab all these half square triangles that need to be made. This is what I need in pieces to make this block, and this is how much material I need to make all 4 blocks and to finish a row off. I have 4 groupings like this because I need 4 rows. I need 4 rows to make this quilt top, and that's how I kind of organize myself when I'm planning out to make a quilt top. Now in this video I show you how I do an assembly based plan to do all my half square triangles. There's two ways to make half square triangles, and I like saving steps. When you draw a line, you're going to sew on one side and come back and sew on the other. On this one, you just cut your fabric and you have your two pieces, and you sew a fourth here and sew a fourth here, and you chain piece it. I'm the kind of person that doesn't like doing extra steps, and this is why I don't like doing it this way, because not only are you going to have to spend time in drawing all the dumb lines when you can cut it and already have it cut for you and you just put it together, you're going to have to go back and redo the same thing that you did initially. So I turn around, and when I do have time, since this is not my favorite part, making the half square triangles, I sit down for an hour maybe or two when I have time, and I sew all my half square triangles together, and then I iron them and I trim them with my ruler. So here's my row that I want to work on today. I'm going to unclip it, and I'm going to put these aside, because once I'm finished with these half square triangles, I'm going to need them in a minute. Cutting them with a rotary cutter works for me. So I have everything cut. So here you see I have sewn all my pieces that I cut, and I start, of course, just taking them apart. I have my stacks ready to go. You can see that the reason I have the colors on top, it's because when you iron, I'm going to lay my fabric down, pull, and so that makes the seam go to the dark side. That's why I want my darks on top. And this is just kind of like a little trick I learned, because I'm always in a hurry. Grab a piece. My iron is hot. Pull a little bit. Well, don't pull too much. While I'm going over, and they're all beautifully ironed, and the seam is nice and warm. What I start doing here now is separating it by twos while my iron is getting hot, because when I assemble the blocks, I want to make sure I have a variety of scrappiness, but it's organized scrappiness, okay? And then I have my half square triangle here, and I'm going to line it up. Of course, I usually try to give myself some good spacing. And I cut and trim, and as accurate as I possibly can. Okay, so I have cut all my half square triangles. I've trimmed them. I also organized them by twos. Okay, so here's my stack of fabric. I'm going to get me some clips. You can use these, but they're not my favorite. I need 2 or 4 dark half square triangles. I need 2 lighter tone. Then I need 2 of this color, 2 of this one. I clip it, and I know that in this pile of material is enough material to make one block. And I do an assembly base of organizing all my blocks, and the way I originally did it, I know that this whole set of material is going to give me enough material, or it should, to make 4 blocks, which would finish a whole row. Doing it this way for me is a great motivator, because once you see one whole row done, I don't know, it creates this wonderful momentum to do the next row, even if you're going to have to sew other half square triangles. And here is my blocks. 2, 3, 4. So I have row 1, row 2, and I just need to do and work on this last row while I do my half square triangles. Yeah. So I got this tin at Office Max or somewhere for a whole $1, and when you open it, it has some of these wonderful kind of, they have paper clips, but it has these kind of clips. So what I do is I organize using these clips, and this is what a block looks like. In this little paper clip, which looks like this, every single piece is organized for making the quilt top, which each one of these will make a quilt block, which one of doing all 4 of these will also do one whole row. I tend to make a whole row in one shot. I sit down for a couple hours and try to piece a whole row, and I have it literally pieced all the way across, completely done. For some reason, that helps me create the snowball effect of wanting to do the next row. The cool thing about it is I probably already have everything separated, ready to do the next row, and I may walk away for a couple hours or another day, and the next day I come back and I just start working on row number 2. And once I finish a row, and if I'm on the second row, I do add it to the first row. Like I said, it encourages you. There is this progress that you're creating as you're doing it, and it kind of brings this motivation to finish. And I sometimes need motivation to finish. If you leave everything in one bin and put all your blocks, let's say you finished a whole row of blocks and you put them in the bin, you finish another row of blocks, you put them in the bin, and what I found for myself is as they stay in the bin, I never build the quilt top. Yeah. I never build it and I never finish it. And I have a couple bins like that, okay? Now, when I make, if the quilt top needs 6 blocks, if I make them, I finish the row. However many blocks the quilt top needs. If I can do a row and sew it all together, I will initially force myself or push myself to finish that task. So, and then I hang it somewhere so I can see it. And then it encourages me to, hey, you could still do another 4 blocks or another 6 blocks, and then you could put row number 2 on there. And then after you see number 2, you're like, you know what, if I do another 4 blocks or however many blocks, I'll finish row number 3 and I could put it on there. And there's this kind of motivation, encouragement that as you start seeing the quilt top being built, it's very encouraging, okay? I really do hope you like the way I organize myself and the way I plan to go ahead and make this beautiful quilt top. I do thank you for watching. I'll see you later.